I want to take you guys on a little journey and talk about surrender. Coming up on 10 years of recovery and having worked with countless people in recovery, there's always this topic of surrender. We come in, we step away from the addiction, and we surrender our will to God. A lot of people get tripped up and confused in that little space right there. And my intention with this is to share what surrender looks like. Surrendering is not surrendering to defeat. Surrendering and stepping into recovery is surrendering to victory. Roughly 10 years ago, I was drinking myself to death, hiding in a little apartment in the middle of Nowhereville, Utah, and I was literally drinking myself to death. I wasn't even eating much, and I was drinking a lot of 80 proof liquor. It got to the point where I was wanting, something had to change. There was something in me that was saying, it doesn't have to always be like this. There's got to be a change. There's got to be something different. I would see it in the lives of other people, and I would say, why can that person do it and I can't? And I always knew it was available. I just was clueless as to how and what and when and why. That part I had no idea to. There I was in the middle of Nowhereville, Utah, drinking myself to death. I called my parents. I said, listen, I can't do this. I need help. Of course, they agreed to help to try and get me into a treatment center. I was roughly 2 hours away, two and a half hours away from their house. All I had left was my car, a very small amount of belongings. My car had no license, no registration, and no insurance, and I had roughly a handful of warrants out for my arrest from just baggage I had accumulated through my active addiction. So there I am. I get in the car, start driving home. I'm headed home on the freeway. Obviously looking in every mirror, every time I went looking for cops, didn't want one to get behind me, trying to maneuver the road, and anxiety, worry, fear had become the normal culture in my life at that time. I get there to my parents' city, I pull off the freeway. I had memorized the roads because I knew which ones to drive on, so I didn't see police. I got off and I immediately wanted to get off the main road, and I wanted to get onto a back road to make it to their house. I pull off, I pull onto a back road. Sure enough, a cop pulls right up behind me. I try to speed off a little bit, and he noticed it, flipped his lights on immediately. I just pulled over. I knew the gig was over. This wasn't my first time interacting with the police, and I knew something in that moment. I knew I could not keep living this way. This wasn't, up to that point in my life, I had seen dozens of my friends die, not right before my eyes, but all around me, from car wrecks and overdoses and freak accidents and suicides, all because of addiction. And there I am, just as bad or worse than any of them, knowing that my time's up. I can't keep doing this. I don't know what this looks like, this surrender thing, but I just can't keep doing this. I'm sitting there in the car. I pull out my license. Cops coming up to the window. I roll the window down. I hand them my license and I say, here you go. I have no license. I have no registration. I have no insurance, and I have a handful of warrants out for my arrest. And I surrendered. I surrendered. Almost a little unknowingly at the time, to be honest, but I was so tired. I was so done. I didn't know how it was all going to change. I truly didn't, but I was completely done and I couldn't do it anymore. The police officer says, thank you. Okay. Almost as if he was saying, wow, all right, I can work with that. Thank you for being honest. I'm chain smoking cigarettes because I was also a smoker at that time, because I know I'm going to jail and I know I'm not going to be smoking in there. I'm sitting in the car. My life is flooding through my mind. Another squad car pulls up. I knew the drill. I'm sitting there and I prayed. I was always really good at praying when the handcuffs went on or were about to go on. I have since learned that a lifestyle of prayer eradicates those situations from your life so you don't ever have to return to them. But I'm sitting there in the car and I prayed a prayer, something to this effect. God, I can't do this anymore. I give up and I need your help. I didn't even pray it out loud. I prayed it in my heart. But the truth of the matter is this: it was honest. I gave up. I completely surrendered. I did not surrender to defeat. I surrendered to victory. And I gave up in that moment. Immediately, things began to shift in my life. Immediately, grace came flooding into my life. Grace took the steering wheel of my life and began to work things out in such a dramatic fashion that it confuses me looking back at it. 13 years of chaos, suicide attempts, hospitals, addictions, jails, everything you can imagine. It all reached a head sitting in my car, completely defeated, and I decided to surrender and say, God, come in and have your way and do what only you can do. Fast forward 10 years, living in freedom and living a completely different lifestyle. It makes sense now. Looking back at it, I didn't exactly know what it looked like, but the surrender was honest. And that's what allowed God to come in and radically change things.